Ready? Play.
Welcome back to another episode of Painting Lines. Last week we broke down Hong Kong and Brisbane for you, and this week, what an exciting time of the year. Adelaide and Auckland just wrapped up on Sunday. The Australian Open is officially in full swing, and we are absolutely pumped to bring on a special guest today. She's a fellow tennis digital creator. She covers all things tennis, from news and updates to fashion and pop culture, using her platform to grow this wonderful sport that we all love. Welcome on Eliza Westkit, also known as Eliza West.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be
Great, great. So why don't we just jump right in and talk about your background? So, how did you get into tennis?
here. So I guess like my love for tennis started a long time ago. My dad was like the first person to bring me to tennis lessons when I was young, but it was never really a sport that I ended up kind of taking seriously throughout my athletic career. I was much more of a team sports player, and so tennis took a back seat for most of my kind of young adult life. But I managed to really find kind of the love of playing tennis again during COVID, like many people did, and had the pleasure of working with a friend's dad who was a tennis coach who had some free time to kind of help me with my game. But in the meantime, I'd always kind of watched tennis, been in and around tennis, working at Wimbledon as a ball girl and later as a supervisor, and really just kind of ended up in the digital space a little bit by accident. I am trained in the kind of social media marketing space and worked a lot with influencers in the past, and sort of through that experience thought, why can't I, do this myself and at the very least build a like-minded community of people that also really enjoy tennis, and maybe I'll get a couple free rackets and fund my hobby. And from there it's sort of taken off. So it's all been a bit of an organic sort of long-winded journey, but I'm very much happy to be involved in this sport.
Yeah, for sure. That's a pretty amazing story. I can resonate with that as well because I also took tennis lessons when I was a kid, me and my sister, and then as we got older, she actually got kicked out of the club for like
Jeez.
throwing clay on people. So then like once that
Oh,
happened, my mom stopped bringing me. So then I kind of picked up team sports too, and then I didn't really rediscover tennis until the pandemic when Aiden and I would play every single day at school. We
oh,
went to college together.
oh, nice. Where'd you guys go?
Cornell.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that was the only sport, or I guess like the only activity that, you could pretty much do socially distanced.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you talked about being a Wimbledon ball kid. I kind of want to hear that story, just like how you got that opportunity, kind of like what the training process is, if you have any favorite memories, and then some player interactions.
Yeah, so it's kind of a bit of a convoluted process, as you might expect with Wimbledon. It's not, totally accessible to everybody. You have to be at a what they would call like a feeder school. So they sort of nominate a select group of schools, which they would take students from to apply for the ball girl, ball boy like program. And I was very lucky that my school had submitted a team for the London Olympics, and through doing that, they were then nominated to submit a team for Wimbledon because they did a good job. So I was amongst like the first team of people that my school sent forth to Wimbledon tryouts, and it was honestly quite a surreal experience. It started in January, the tournament's in July, so it was a solid 6 months of training. You would go there once a week for about 2.5, 3 hours. There were all sorts of tests and physical tests that they would make us do. And then we also had homework or like online tests that we would do throughout the week as well that would make sure you know where the balls are going to be when the balls change ends, when they get changed, etc. So it was quite a convoluted testing process, and I was really lucky to make the cut first time around. And I ended up being a ball girl for 3 years, and then I came back to be a supervisor for the ball girl program for a couple of years as well. So I've been in and amongst it, and I guess my rules knowledge, and I'm quick and agile and can roll a tennis ball pretty straight, so that played in my favor.
Well, that's awesome. We had Gil Gross on about a year ago, so he was a U.S. Open ball kid.
Yeah, so we had a little debate once about the differences between the two, and he's like, "We always make fun of you guys, you make everything look robotic and strange." But I know I'm biased. I still think the Wimbledon ball kids are the best. I mean, they really make, a program and a a sport out of it, to be honest with you. And you can really tell that the kids not only like know what they're doing and are well drilled, but are competitive with each other and like want to be the best ball kid, which is a great atmosphere to create when you're in a slam environment and you want to deliver the best experience for the players.
For sure. So let me ask you this. When you watch a slam, are you also watching the ball kids?
I always have half an eye on them, especially when I'm in person. And whenever the ball change gets called, I'm like, all right, let's see how they do. Are they going to send it to the right end? Are they going to pick it all up properly? And no, it's great to see kids get the chance to be on court with players. I think it's a really phenomenal experience for kids to have. And whether you're a tennis player or you just enjoy sports, I think getting the chance to stand on court next to some of the world's best athletes is really a life-changing experience. And something that none of them are going to forget. So it's really fantastic to see that they're still giving kids those opportunities. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. There's a pretty cool picture of you giving a towel to Roger Federer. Did you guys ever exchange any words, or was that like the extent of that interaction?
Roger was one of the very few players that would always come down and say thank you to the ball kids at Wimbledon. It makes such a big difference. If players ever listen to this, just popping down and sticking your head in and saying thank you. It's so memorable, and Roger was the one who pretty much always did that. So we were always thankful for him. And no, he never said anything in that moment on court, but I just remember feeling the stark difference in his dry towel versus everybody else's, sopping wet, disgusting towel that I never really wanted to touch. And Roger just always made it look so effortless and graceful. So it was honestly such a big honor to get the chance to be on court with him.
Yeah, so it's true. He really doesn't sweat. I thought that was just maybe a camera angle or something.
But it was dry. I was like, you don't even need this towel.
That's hilarious. So one of the like topics that you like to cover is tennis fashion, and I personally like that aspect of the sport as well. So I figured we kind of start off with a fun little game. I'm gonna like throw some brands at you, and you
Yeah.
just rank them 1 to 10. And this could be clothing, it could be, gear, rackets, whatever. So everything factored in. So we'll start off with Wilson.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10, yeah. I'm sure you had to say that. All right, Nike.
Nike, like Nike of old was up there at an 8, 9 out of 10. In its current state, we're at like a 4 out of 10.
Couldn't agree more. All right, how about Lotto?
I would say it's possible at 5 out of 10.
Yeah, they have potential. Babolat.
Rackets, 7 or 8 out of 10. Clothes, shoes, I'll put them down at 3.
Yeah, I feel like they're more so known for their rackets.
Yeah, they definitely have some good rackets, and I think it's testament to see not only like continuing to see top players that are using it, but also the amount of junior players and people getting into the sport with those rackets. So, I mean, I think they're doing a good job on that front.
This one's a classic. Prince.
Prince, oh my goodness. Gosh, my first like proper racket was a Prince racket back in the day.
Oh,
But I've never played with a Prince since, and I don't think they're making any like new collections that are super exciting. They did do some cool collaborations last year with like a perfume company and some stuff like that, but in their current state, they seem a bit irrelevant, so I'll give them a 3.
oh, three, brutal. All right, Fila.
Mm. Fila, I'll say towards the end of last year had some really good collections, so I'll give them a 7.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like they were still able to bring back that classic Bjorn Borg like striped outfit.
Yes,
It's kind of
yes,
cool. I would never wear it, but takes a certain player to rock it.
exactly. I thought Nakashima looked good, and I thought they did a good job with Navarro. So
hmm
yeah, I'm liking that new stuff.
Yeah, Sam Querrey back in the day.
Exactly.
New Balance.
I really like what they're doing at the moment. I think they've been consistent, kept things pretty simple, so I'll give them an 8 out of 10.
Grade. K Swiss.
Ooh, they're making a bit of a comeback. I've been recently testing some of their shoes, and I've been pleasantly surprised. So I'll give them a 6.5. Not sure yet that they're executing on the apparel level that I
hmm
totally love. But they have ZZ Zhang, and I like the pink outfit he had at Roland
Yeah.
Garros. Yeah, 6.5.
Yeah. They had Cam Nori, but I saw your video. What happened? Was it just kind of a contract running out, or
I think so. I mean, my guess is like Cam is, semi coming towards the end of his career. There's no
yeah,
Babolat, so I'm sure there was maybe just a more attractive deal on the table with them.
yeah, makes sense. All right, Adidas.
Again, like Adidas 10 years ago was like dream for
Yeah,
me. I
now.
loved Stella McCartney. I loved all of it, but unfortunately, their last good collection was when they did that collaboration with Pharrell Williams. I think it was 2020 at the US Open, but as it stands, no, we're down at a three.
Yeah, I don't love it. And I feel like players like Stefanos and Zverev, like they have the potential to look so much better on the court, but the Adidas just kind of brings down their swag.
Yes, and that hot red shoe that they're wearing
Oh,
at the moment, Mensick with the red socks too. I was like,
yeah.
oh, this is an eyesore. What are we doing?
Yeah. How about Zverev's tank tops or the muscle shirts?
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
No.
very, very long shorts. So yeah, I'm not too impressed.
Yeah, me neither. Asics.
Oh, well, if anyone follows my social media today, they'll know that me and Asics are not friends. So
Oh.
well, I know that they have some of the best shoes on the market, so I'll give them that.
Mhm.
Personally, they didn't really work for me, but I know that a lot of players really like them. Their clothes are honestly some of the worst in my opinion, so we'll put them at two.
Yeah, they kind of it's like almost too sporty with the neon colors and stuff.
Yeah,
But
or just not interesting cuts. Like I don't, I
mhm,
think like for me, the silhouette and how the clothes are cut is really what makes
mhm,
something look good. And it's just a very generic, like fit all system. And they have athletes that are very different shapes and sizes, and to not accommodate that, I think is sort of a disrespect when you're a brand that's like sponsoring so many athletes. It's not
mhm.
hard to have enough variety to make sure that everybody gets a chance to look good in their sponsors' clothes.
Yeah, I will say I do live and die by the shoe. Like I will only buy Asics tennis shoes, and it used to be Nike like
Yeah,
4 years ago, but they kept ripping. And then I had my first pair of Asics, and they were so durable.
which shoe do you
So,
like?
hmm, I
Which
have the what are these? The Solution Swift.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I like
Is that
I think it's the solution speed, but yes,
speed?
I
Hmm.
like that one too. The gel resolution is also really popular.
It's kind of ugly, but
Yeah, but I mean, I
yeah.
feel like your feet are the most important thing
Right,
in this. And
right.
yeah, for me, the speed was better. The gel resolution really hurt my feet, but
Hmm.
everybody's so like individualistic with shoes. It's hard to know, but I know they're doing a lot of innovation on that front, so I'll definitely give them that.
Speaking on the silhouette, uh, I did notice that Draper wore like a very baggy shirt at the U.S. Open last year. Do you think that was a good look or like a controversial move by him?
I mean, I wouldn't say like I necessarily thought it was a good look, but it was definitely like a fashion statement.
Hmm.
I thought it was interesting. Like he had Anna Wintour in his box, who's obviously been like a fashion icon for many years. And so I was a bit like, I wonder if she's approved this. I liked the graphic gradients on the kit, but I personally wasn't such a fan of the massively oversized shirt. Like I think you can oversize, but he went like a bit far. And I can also, Arthur Feast seems to do that fairly often too, where he just looks like he's drowning in his shirts. And I can't tell whether he just wants something that's a little bit bigger, but he went to an XL and he's just swimming in it and they didn't like make it fit, or whether he really wants it like that. But both of them seem to be tugging on the shirt a lot during the matches because it's bunched up on their shoulders. So I can't say like from a performance perspective that it seems to suit them very well.
100%.
Yeah, I think he was going for a retro look because remember he would wear the Agassi high top Nikes like
Yeah,
before and after. But then also going with the baggy, I think Nike does do a good job of having shorter sleeves. Like you see Tiafo, Fritz, Sinner. Like I agree. It's practical to have shorter sleeves than like the baggy constantly pulling it up.
yeah, yeah.
All right. How about Lacoste?
Um, I like their generic kits, but I don't love what they do for Medvedev and Novak or
Hmm.
Djokovic. Um, so I'll give them a 6.5.
Yeah, I think they have like the classiest look though. Like they
Which
still have a
like,
great polo. What were you
like
saying?
like the classic generic polo that like the normal Lacoste players are wearing. That's good.
Yes.
I like
Like
that.
Dimitrov always looks good.
Agree, agree. So
All right.
maybe that line, I'll give that like an
Mhm.
8.
There we go. Yeah, I've never played in the shoes. It's kind of interesting. I think most players wear the apparel, but then not the Lacoste shoes.
Yes, yeah. I've
So,
had good reviews, but I've
mhm.
not tried them myself.
Yeah. All right, couple more. Bear with me. Yonex.
Ooh, I know that they have some fantastic design with the rackets. I'm personally not a Yonex player. I find it to be quite an advanced setup, but I know that they're really a leading brand in the racket space, and people love what they're doing. So high marks for the rackets. The kits are not my favorite. Like sometimes the colors are fine. A lot of the time the graphics just like go too far. I did think Casper Ruud had a couple good kits last year. The shorts were just a bit long, so I'll give him a 6.
Yeah. Yeah, I did demo a Yonex Percept a couple weeks ago. It is great to play with. So I might be making the switch here pretty soon.
Oh, interesting.
From Wilson actually.
What do you normally
But
play with?
the Blade.
Blade?
V8, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But all right, these last two are more in the fashion sense. So let's go with Boss.
Boss. Um, I mean, I think like Berrettini and Freds, like they both look good in Boss. I would just like to see a little bit of variety from a fashion house and maybe
Hmm.
mixing up the color palette. I mean, I know they went with purple for the AO, so that's the first time we've like seen them do something other than black and white, so that's cool. But yeah, I'd like to see a couple kind of maybe different styles from them down the line. Maybe that's still to come. So I'll give them like a 7.
All right. And then last one, this is more so in the like recreational and leisure tennis. I don't think they have anyone on tour, but Sergio Tacchini.
Oh, I miss them being on
I
tour.
know, right?
Oh, it's such a shame what happened to them. I feel like Novak bankrupted him with them with all of his bonuses. Uh,
We were just talking about that before you got on.
yeah, I mean, they're such a really iconic heritage brand, and it's really a shame that they're not involved in pro tennis at the moment. I would love to see them make a comeback. I think they make some really fun and interesting collections. And while I don't haven't worn much of it myself, I just have one set. I've always loved it, so I'd put them up there at like a 9 out of 10 and hope that they can come back.
Yeah, legacy brand. I just got my first tracksuit,
Oh yeah,
Sergio Tacchini tracksuit. Yeah,
those are epic. You'll get
I
lots of
know.
I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. All right, now let's switch gears here to kind of tennis trends. So, something I've been seeing recently, and I feel like this is more so like in the recreational space, but tennis apparel moving to more of like the country club aesthetic, with the tracksuits, the tennis whites. Like, are you seeing that too? And what are your thoughts on, like just regular tennis outfits these days?
Yeah, I think it's definitely made a move towards that kind of country club aesthetic, the kind of bringing in some of those old styles and that retro look. I think a lot of that's honestly attributed to like COVID, post-pandemic, the rise of athleisure and people wanting to find a way to wear comfortable, sporty clothes but still look good in them, and something that can, translate from maybe like a meeting in a coffee shop to actually playing or doing some type of sport. So I think it's great to kind of see tennis make a comeback. Also last year with the Challengers movie and these sort of like cultural touch points of tennis fashion being relevant and seeing high level celebrities at these tennis events I think has picked up the kind of general brand interest. I think the rise of the wags, the morgs and those Paige
Yeah,
Lorenz,
Paige
like
Lorenz.
that. I think are making the like tennis uh culture, yeah, in general more fashionable. So it's given brands a lot of opportunity to play and kind of bring back some of their old styles. So I'm pretty excited about it. I feel like tennis kind of went through a little bit of a kind of slump in terms of like innovation and design and mixing things up for a while. So yeah, I think it's an exciting time. And while some brands are on the decline, other brands are on the rise, and we have a lot more variety and choice than we used to. So consumers really have the chance to pick something that works for them.
Totally. And it's always funny because here in New York, a couple weeks after the US Open, you will see every single tennis court absolutely packed. And it'll be, people who barely play, but they go for the pictures. Like I've seen full on photographers and video teams like videoing people. And it's just so frustrating when you're waiting 2 hours for a court and you just see
Imagine.
just someone just taking pictures on there. But I do like it because it is growing the sport. Like as much as I wasn't the biggest fan of Morgs in the beginning, I will say like she has done a lot of positive for the sport. So I'll give her credit for that.
Yeah.
It's like the
Um,
gym after New Year.
yeah, oh my God. Exactly. That's a great comparison. I don't know. Are you guys seeing that in LA too? Just a lot of country club attire on the courts or
Um, I think like it kind of depends on where you're playing and like who you're playing with, but in general, I'd say like a lot of the recreational clubs that I'm a part of, they want to create an aesthetic, and so
Mm,
people definitely make a bit of an effort, or they have partnerships with brands that let you try on the clothes when you're there. So I think they're sort of getting direct to consumer opportunities like a lot more maybe than they used to, and people are becoming more familiar with like different options, and yeah, want to dress nice, want to look good for the pictures for the gram, that whole
hmm.
vibe. So I think I'm also seeing more women in particular, wearing tennis skirts and tennis dresses off the tennis court, and it's just become something that people like to wear, especially in a warm climate, and it's sort of an easy thing to put on.
Yeah, it's a great look too.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite era of tennis clothes?
Ugh. I think just like given my age and like the generation that I grew up with, I think like from 2005 to like 2015, like in the height of Sharapova, Williams, Federer, Nadal, just like there were so many memorable outfits for me that I remember watching when I was young, being like, I would love to wear that. I want to wear that dress. But I also like, having now like studied this a little bit more, I still really love some of the looks from the late 80s, early 90s, like original Sergio Tacchini type of attire. And would love to see like a way to kind of blend the two and bring them both back. I think that would be awesome.
What about like the Agassi jean shorts?
I see some brands trying to bring that back actually. I again like I think fashion is, an expression of your personality, and it's great to give a nod to like what was done before and the previous icons of the sport. So I'm all about kind of like bringing back the archives and kind of opening them up. And I had a conversation with some Nike folks at the Open last summer, and they were asking, a little bit my opinion on, what to do for future collections. And I just said, look, like you have some of the best archives in the world, just
Yeah.
re-release, and people will love it. So yeah, I think it would be great to see the comeback of just like more of those classic looks and see what other players are inspired by on the tour at the moment.
Yeah, remember that excerpt in Agassi's book Open where he and McEnroe go to the Nike factory to pick some clothes. McEnroe picks up the denim shorts and was like, "Who the fuck would wear these?" And then Agassi was like, "Yep, I'll take those." That was one of my favorite parts.
Okay.
Um, so like Agassi was a style icon in the 90s. Who do you think is the biggest style icon tennis has today? Like, is there one?
I mean, I think based on like the conversations that I've had with people, Federer's name always comes up in terms of like people can't really name outfits that he wore that people didn't like. And he always just had that seamless classic look that he looked good in, and it wasn't overdoing it, but it had variety and it had color and it had personality to it. But it was still, I feel like with a lot of Nadal's outfits, like they looked fine on him, but they weren't necessarily outfits that the general public would like to wear. Whereas from what I've seen in my playing days, like that RF t-shirt was just like a unanimous purchase for tennis players. So I think he really set the bar. And for me personally, Sharapova was always somebody who I thought was well dressed and had a hand in, what she was wearing and what was being designed, and went above and beyond with her looks. And I really loved what she wore as well.
Yeah, I can't say I've ever seen the Nadal capris out in the wild. Um,
Definitely
no, no, maybe in Europe. I definitely have not seen it in the
not.
States, but um, on the other hand, who's a player that you think that is on tour right now that you think that they can improve their style?
Good question. Um,
Not to put anyone on blast, but just constructive criticism.
yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see how the style of Sinner evolves, given his status as, a number one player and potentially being a player that could really go on to win a lot of titles in his career. I think right now he's not really got a style per se. I mean, he's just kind of started getting unique looks from
Mhm.
Nike, but it feels pretty lazy. I'm kind
Yeah.
of intrigued to see what they do with the original logo was fine. I don't know what's going on with this cartoon Fox logo, but I feel like with his accomplishments and the trajectory of his career, it would be in his interest to like do some more interesting outfits for him. And I think what would be so awesome is if there would be a way to find like a collaboration opportunity between like Nike and Gucci,
Ooh.
kind of see like is there a chance to kind of make a unique collection that only he wears and really try something new. So similarly with Alcaraz and his relationship with Louis Vuitton, I would love to kind of see a collaboration between a designer brand and an athletic brand in that way.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. And I feel like that is like quintessential tennis too, because
Yeah.
tennis, it has kind of a like classy, wealthy fan base. And I feel like that would just do so well with, especially older players or older people that play.
100%. People already want the Gucci bag, so I mean,
Hmm.
I think it would sell itself, and it would definitely create a story. And we saw last year with Osaka at the U.S. Open. Whether you like the outfit or not, the buzz and conversation that it created online and in person, I think again is like great for the sport of tennis and extends extends the reach of tennis beyond just like sports fans and gets other people interested. And it just shows that tennis is still a sport that's worth brands paying attention to and being involved in, and it's so unique in that way that you get to dress an athlete literally in whatever you want to dress them in, so it leaves so much like creative freedom in that way. And I think it would be an awesome opportunity for more of these kind of designer brands on the side to step up and make something unique for their players.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
I think especially with Alcaraz or with Sinner, like you were saying, like Alcaraz has some stuff like with Nike with like the colored tank tops, but it really feels like Sinner is just wearing like a white shirt with a different colored sleeves.
Yes. Yeah, he is. He probably looked at the rest of the AO collection and was like, "I'll pass on that. Just give me the plainest one you can possibly give me, and I'll take it." But it doesn't seem like he really likes the loud colors or the kind of extroverted styles that maybe Alcaraz likes, and that's okay. But I think he could certainly do it more than he's doing at the moment.
Yeah.
100%.
It is funny, like with accessories too. Like for example, a hat. I play tennis with a hat every time because I think it's practical, whether it's backwards at night to hold my hair back or to like soak up sweat or, during the day in the sun, it can block it. I don't know how players don't play with either a headband or a hat.
I
Like
agree.
Alcaraz sometimes it's crazy.
Yeah, I think it was funny. Jasmine Paolini wore a visor yesterday for like 5 minutes, and everyone was like, "What? Why is she
Yeah.
wearing a visor?" And she had enough of it. She took it off. But no, I am the same way. I think for me, like either a headband or a visor at the very least for sweat absorption. I'm like, are these guys not sweating? Maybe they don't have the same problems as me. But no, I mean, all of it's personal preference. And this year I started playing in some sunglasses, so that was new,
Ooh.
and I was fine with that actually, which I was surprised by. But yeah, I would think being out in that hot heat and on the tennis court all day that they would want to wear a hat, but I guess some folks are fine.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Federer just really didn't even need the headband.
Maybe not. No, it was just for his locks.
It was
Yeah.
looks, yeah. All right, let's talk about some general tennis topics. I'm interested to hear your take on the tennis culture in the UK versus America because you've lived in both.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think in the UK, I would say we only really tend to care when it comes to a Brit. And maybe that's the same in the US, but I think just it kind of maybe it depends on where you are in the US, but I think there are more recreational tennis players who enjoy playing tennis but don't really watch the tours at all. And they just kind of know of the biggest names. In the UK, obviously they're like super into it during Wimbledon. There's not that much opportunity to play tennis like outside year round, and there's not an abundance of indoor courts, especially if you live in one of the cities, and it's obviously an expensive sport to play if you've got to play indoors all the time. So yeah, I mean, I think in both countries, it's not the primary sport, and it comes alive when somebody from that country starts really performing well. But I would say the Brits are just 10% more into it when it comes to an Andy Murray or an Emma Raducanu making a run at a Grand Slam.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even in New York, like during the Australian Open, it is hard to find a bar or a pub that shows tennis like
Yeah,
casually. Especially with football on right now because you have the NFL playoffs, you have the college playoffs. I'm just trying to watch some tennis and
yeah,
it's hard. It's hard.
yeah. It's we need a few more tennis bars around the world.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's definitely in the US for sure.
So when Draper made that big run last year, was that like a big buzz in the UK?
Well, I wasn't personally there myself, so I can't entirely tell you, but I just know from reading like British media and publications and kind of knowing how the British press are that, you know, they're all over it when one of their athletes does well. We're a small country that doesn't always have success on the big stage, and it's been, obviously we had Murray, but it's been a long time since we've had an abundance of good players on the tour. So folks were definitely excited to see him, and I think are invested in his future and hope that he can go a long way. I certainly know that BBC Sport covers him a lot.
Yeah, massive drought in the US as far as at least a slam. We have a lot of top players in the top 20, but I'd trade them all in for an Andy Murray any day of the week.
Yes, yeah. Well, on the men's side, yeah, I think we
Yeah.
spoiled by the women, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we
it
got
would
Good point.
we got plenty from Serena. Like
yeah.
we
Yeah.
got
We
what,
got our fair
24 or
share.
something?
Between Serena and Venus, we were well taken care of on that side. But yeah, and it's nice to see Coco back in the mix.
Right.
That's really awesome for the women's game, and just testament to the fact that women's tennis in the States keeps chugging along, and the collegiate programs are growing, and I think that it's a really exciting time for American tennis. And sure enough, one of these prospects has got to win one. I mean, like how much more is it going to take? It just yeah, hopefully they'll be able to break through.
Who do you think it's going to be on the men's side?
Question. I want it to be Ben Shelton, but I'm not convinced that it will be. Maybe Taylor can get there. I just think it getting through the Sinner Alcaraz barrier now is its whole own challenge. So maybe it's that young kid, I forget his name, who played against Djokovic the other night.
Um,
Bossa
yeah.
That's already. Yes, maybe it's him.
Yeah, maybe. I agree with you. I think it's gonna be Shelton just because I think, Fritz is better than him right now, but I think Shelton has a higher ceiling and he's more explosive. Like he could beat Sinner and Alcaraz on any given day, but I think Fritz is just more consistent.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
All right. This is pretty contested, but do you play pickleball and like what are your thoughts around it?
Um, so I don't really like pickleball as a sport. I like it as a game to play with my friends who can't play tennis. I think that tennis is, well, it's a high barrier to entry sport that if you didn't play when you were young, it's pretty hard to learn. And when you have a difference in levels, it's just like not fun for anybody really on the court. So I think pickleball is a great, alternative to tennis and a great way to involve people in a racket sport in a much simpler and more accessible way. I think it's also good, for older people that maybe don't have the knees for tennis anymore, and need something on a smaller scale. So as a game, I don't hate it. I think it's fun to play, pick up and just do with your friends. But in terms of like a professional sport, you will never catch me watching pickleball TV. That
No.
I have no interest in that.
Yeah, no, it's all fun and games until they start showing pickleball on Tennis Channel and when they start taking over tennis courts and like
Yes.
repurposing them. Then I start to have a problem.
Yeah, I agree with you. Then I take it personally. I'm like, don't touch my net, okay? And don't put your
Uh-huh.
lines on my tennis court. Get your own space.
Yeah, did you see that clip of Andy Murray? I think he was asked about pickleball. He's like, I don't particularly like pickleball. I don't like the noise. I think it's rather annoying.
It is rather annoying, like that
Yeah.
sound. It's just dreadful. And yeah, I mean, I just for people playing it at a pro level, I just can't really take it seriously. I mean, if you're that hand-eye coordinated, then yeah, why not tennis? But I guess
Hmm.
they couldn't make it in tennis, so you could have.
Or they made it in tennis and then they decided to go to pickleball.
There you go. Yeah, they don't have the arm for it anymore. You've got you need,
Yeah.
but yeah, I wouldn't say like I want to eradicate it from the earth, but I'm not its champion, that's for sure.
Yeah, because it's very polarizing. I feel like most tennis players will just go in on how much they hate pickleball, but
Yeah,
I think it's fun. It's a game, exactly what you said.
it's fun to make fun of it though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Because they
of course.
easily are offended by, the jokes and the humor around it, like not being a sport. So
Hmm.
personally, I find it fun to annoy people when they really like take it personally. Then I just want to do it a bit more.
Yeah. So you're
Yeah.
a troll. Okay. All right. How about Padel? Padel's a little cooler, I think.
I'm a big fan of padel. I think it's a really
Hmm.
awesome sport. Padel, platform tennis, all of those kind of varieties. I think I've played platform tennis, and that was a lot of fun. Playing it off the fence. I think that adds like a completely different, really challenging dynamic, honestly. And I know it's a huge, huge sport in Spain and in Europe and in South America. And I would love, honestly, to have the opportunity to play more in LA. It's a super expensive
Hmm.
sport to play, like more than tennis. But I think it's a really, really exciting, really interesting, yeah, different version of tennis. So definitely a fan.
Yeah, I want to try it. I still have yet to try it. There's one in Williamsburg, and
Okay,
then there was one in Hudson Yards too, but like you said, it's, you know, 400 or 500 an hour, just way too much.
that's insane. I thought 200 an hour here was bad. I was
Yeah,
definitely not like who's paying these prices? That's insane.
right? Right?
It does seem like a high level too. Like we actually saw a pro tournament at that Williamsburg one when I was in New York, and those guys are really effective at like placing it in certain spots where you can't really hit it off the wall, or it's very different. It seems like strategically.
Absolutely, yeah. It looks really difficult. I mean, the hour that I played platform tennis, just like getting used to the fact that like, okay, I can get it off the wall and the whole positioning and your orientation and coordination dealing with that, it's really challenging. So yeah, I have a lot of admiration. Those guys are definitely some talented athletes. I'll give them that.
I was down in Brazil for the holiday a couple weeks ago, and I saw like beach volleyball tennis. It was the
Oh,
coolest thing. Yeah, it was on the beach and it was a volleyball net, but they used a tennis ball and kind of like a, a padel paddle, basically.
yeah, they have that in Santa Monica. I've
Oh,
played.
really?
Yeah, it's also a lot of fun. I mean, I think anything like
Yeah.
beachy,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
exercise on the beach is quite challenging with the sand. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'd recommend giving it a try next time you come and visit.
Yeah, I will, because that has not made its way to New York yet.
Because you guys have so many beaches to play on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right. This next question is just kind of a fun one, but rank the big four in your personal preference. It
Ooh,
doesn't, we don't need to get to the nitty gritty about how Djokovic is like the solidified GOAT. None
yeah.
of that, just like who you like the best.
Okay. Well, Federer is definitely my number one.
Good answer.
I think just like growing up, I wouldn't have put Murray number two, but I don't know, like since his like hip replacement and his like older career and how we've seen this like funnier side of him and like what he does in terms of being an advocate for women's tennis, I am just like a huge fan of his personality at the moment. So I'm gonna put him as two. I'll put Joker as three because I love a villain story. And growing up, we were still in the era where like it was okay to be in two camps between Nadal and Federer. Like I didn't like Nadal fans growing up, but now we're all just mushed together and supposed to love all of them equally, which is fine. But from my true self, Nadal was like my least favorite just because Clay was my least favorite and I got pretty tired of like him winning everything all the time. Yeah.
All right.
I think that very much fits with how we kind of view the big four in general.
Okay, good. I'm not
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah, I would say that's interesting. All right, this next round, I got inspiration from the GQ article that just came out about Djokovic. So I'm gonna just name off a few tennis players, and then First word that comes to mind. All right.
Okay.
All right. Roger Federer,
Classy.
Rafael Nadal,
Fighter.
Novak Djokovic,
Villain.
Carlos Alcaraz,
Electric.
Yannick Sinner,
Selfie.
Daniil Medvedev.
Joker.
You said Joker? Yeah, he is. He's a clown out there. All right. Alexander Zverev.
Yips.
Oh, yeah. Choke artist. Taylor Fritz.
Steady Eddie.
And last but certainly not least, Andy Murray. Sir Andy Murray.
Like, I want to give him fighter as well, like battle axe, like something, just like a hard-headed goat that just doesn't go away.
Stubborn.
Yeah,
Total grinder out there.
yeah, stubborn's a good one.
For me,
Oh,
it's pissed off. Like I feel like he's always pissed off.
Which is like such a British thing to be like that as well. It's so funny because I think in America, like in general, the society is a little bit more optimistic, positive. You have that classic like American work culture that's wants to tell you what you did well before they tell you, what criticism they might have for you, etc. Whereas like the Brits just love to, excuse my French, like shit on things. We just love to complain, like we're miserable, we're in the rain all the time, like everything's hard and horrible. And I've noticed that in myself sometimes where like I have to complain in order to get through hard things. It's like not personal to anyone, it's just my process. But in America, I feel like people are a bit more upbeat and positive. So yeah, Andy definitely like captured that part of British culture, I think, pretty well.
It's pretty
100%.
funny.
What did you say for Sinner again?
Stealthy.
Oh, okay.
What would you
Yeah.
guys say?
Power.
Unbeatable.
Yeah, he's looking pretty unbeatable these days, that's for sure.
Carrot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny at the US Open, the Kuroda boys were just like hyped up, walking around. I got a picture with them. They gave me like stickers. It was a funny
Awesome.
interaction.
But now there's loads of rip-off Karate Boys.
I know. What's up with that?
It's just like get your own idea, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, now we just wanted to ask your opinion on a couple things that are happening on the tour right now. So, obviously, Australian Open happening right now. Do you have a favorite to win it?
Yes, I picked Sinner and Sabalenka before the tournament, and I'm going to stick with the picks. I think Sinner is just going to be a really tough ask for anyone to beat on a hard court at the moment, just with where he is. And I think Sabalenka maybe could face a little bit more challenge depending on how the draw pans out, if there's a collapse and seeds fall or not. But I think she really plays some of her best tennis in Australia, and she just looks really happy and healthy at the moment. And I think that makes her a formidable opponent. And I back her to win the title again.
Yeah. Both defending champs.
Yeah,
100%.
going with it.
I'm definitely on board with that. We made a bracket with a few of our friends that for the entire tournament, and I took Sinner to win the whole thing because I was like, who's gonna beat him really?
For the women, who'd you pick?
I feel like Sabalenka definitely has the best chance.
Okay. Yeah.
Couple episodes ago, we talked about, breakout players in 2025. So we were wondering your thoughts on who you think, we'll see breakout this year.
Yeah, I mean, of course, everyone at the moment is talking about Joao Fonseca and what this transition to top tier tennis is going to look like. I think, he's obviously still really, really young and, ranked outside of the top 100, but has ample talent to make a run inside the top 50 this year. I think a lot of times, like the young players can start the year on absolutely no pressure and just sort of like go out there and have a great run. I think he'll, continue to need to have a very steady team under him, and inevitably he's going to come across some challenges. The year is long, the surfaces change, and the crucial thing will be making sure that he's managing load and not overdoing it with a young body and a slender frame too early on. But I think he definitely has the chops to be up there and really challenge at a high level. So I'm excited to see what he's able to do in these next few rounds. And for the women, I think there are a bunch that are sort of in and around that kind of like top 100, just outside the top 100 area that could have good runs. I mean, Ivelisse being one of them now is a lucky loser at the Australian Open. And she's not super young, but she is certainly like talented and I think could kind of start to make a push. But in terms of the folks that are already, I guess like inside the top 100, I think, Andreeva is the one that stands out as the youngest one who could maybe now break into the top 10 if she has a good year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about our sport. It's you could be on tour for 5, 10 years and then have your breakout year. Like there's no timeline on when you need to break out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, I think, yeah, you hit the nail on the head with Fonseca too, where it's critical how he deals with this year, because we could also have something like Shelton in 2023 where he had an incredible Australian Open and then for the majority of the year was kind of struggling at that top level until he really stepped it up at the US Open, and then since then he's been stable. But yeah, I think it's important that you have like the support to make sure you don't overdo it and get in a bad kind of rut where you're just losing all your matches.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much change happening for him right now. I think even Ben like talked about just like getting used to traveling that much and, living on the road and not having your family or friends around, not having your bed. I mean, I think it's a lot for a 19-year-old to manage and still like enjoy life and grow up and find who they are as a human being. And then on top of that, having so much press and exposure surrounding your tennis for the first time. I think, it's inevitable, in my opinion, that he'll have a dip at some point unless he has like a Carlos type instant rise. But I think that's the exception, not the norm. And I think we got to, let him go through that process, and hopefully his fans like understand that he is super young and he'll come through it. Just there's ups and downs to the tennis journey, and he should, go through that process, and we allow him to do so without too much criticism.
100%.
Definitely. Now, switching gears to someone who is the polar opposite. Instead of breaking out, he's winding down his career. Let's talk about Djokovic and then Murray and their Murray's coaching, like that dynamic right there. Do you think that this is just a one and done thing for the Australian Open, or do you think that it's going to continue throughout the year?
Yeah, it's a really interesting partnership. I don't think many of us saw it coming, but I understand it. I think Djokovic, it seems like, for him, the first thing that's like gone or been a part of the decline has been like the motivational factor. And that seemed to kind of start like last year a little bit and obviously seemed to continue into Indian Wells and then obviously parting ways with Goran. I thought it was interesting because I saw him at Indian Wells that he was spending really a lot of time with fans, signing autographs, like entertaining on the green lawn and doing a lot of like fun and games. And it seemed like his aura changed a little bit. And so maybe he's, really looking for someone to help him feel that competitive edge and kind of get back in the like, zone where he needs to be in order to really win another big title. Um, I'm curious to see from his perspective, like if he doesn't win anything this year, if he's like, I'm done, or if he's going to wait for his body to collapse before he says he's out. But physically, he seems to be in great shape. So um, I think I wouldn't be surprised if the partnership continues at least for the first half of the year. But if it doesn't yield results, maybe not. It's hard to know, to be honest.
No, definitely. It's pure speculation. But I do think that this is a good like entryway for Murray to get into coaching because not only was he one of like the greatest of his time, but also he's coaching like the greatest of all time. And then so when he goes on to coach other players, he can give them direct insight as to what is going on in Djokovic's mind.
Yeah, 100%. I think he'd make a great coach. I love that we can hear him courtside. You can hear the "Come on, Novaks," which
Hmm.
isn't something we always like heard from his box. Goran was really quiet. So, um, yeah, I'm interested to see like if the going gets tough. Djokovic has the tendency to yell at his box, and that's how he works through problems. Like I kind of want it to happen because I want to see how Murray reacts to it. But I mean, I think it's a great partnership for tennis, and I'd agree that I think it's a great opportunity for Murray long term if he wants to pursue the coaching route more seriously.
Yeah, you already know Murray would not put up with any bullshit.
Yeah, I would love to see a bit of like back and forth fire
Yeah,
exchange.
yeah.
That would really get the fans going. Maybe it would get Novak going, who knows? But I think the fans want to see it, that's for sure.
hmm this next topic I wanted to ask you about, we've talked about like pretty much every week on the podcast, but Kyrgios is so adamant about tearing Sinner down, and like I feel like it's a big one-sided beef because Sinner has not responded at all. Like, who do you think is right here, and like, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the language that Kyrgios has used and the way that he's going about criticizing Sinner is quite immature and at times inappropriate. I think that it's within his right to have an opinion, to question the decision and question the process. And I think in some of his press conferences, he has made what I would say are like reasonable points, but they unfortunately are drowned out by a lot of lies, misinformation, and honestly, kind of like hateful rhetoric that seems really unnecessary. I mean, bringing in like Cruz Hewitt and sucking those guys into his like beef is, yeah, really ridiculous. And I think it will also hurt his commentating career, because people are kind of starting to see the depths to which he's gone to criticize Sinner. I do think it is I would say, yeah, a bit of a shady, like dark moment for the sport to have both Sinner and Swiatek in the situations that they're in. And I think that, the doping question and how the process was handled and why we didn't know about things for such a long time. I mean, we have the textbook answer, and you can either accept it or not. I think it's within his right to challenge it and talk about it, but not in the way that he has. So I think Sin has done a great job of just like ignoring it and accepting the situation that he's in and not responding. And it's just a shame that Kyrgios kind of could have used his platform to maybe raise some legitimate questions and has just gone way too far.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate because I recently became a Curious fan just after, he became more public, started his podcast. I feel like, went on Netflix. I think he was just misunderstood, and I started to feel bad for him, and I started to root for him, and then this happens and it makes it kind of tough to still be a fan of him. And also, it's we've talked about this before. Like, I'm kind of in the camp that because he's talking about it and he has such a big platform, it is bringing eyeballs to tennis. Like, people are talking about it. So, like, is any news good news? Like that type of thing. Aiden doesn't seem to think so. I think as long as people are talking about it, he's doing somewhat of a good job, but I don't like the way he's going about it.
Yeah, I
It's
think I
interesting.
think you very eloquently put that, Eliza, with what you said. I think I kind of said that Kyrgios was acting like a piece of garbage. I think my exact words, but yeah, I definitely don't think it was very appropriate the way he went about it.
Yeah, I mean, look, Eric, I agree with you. I think there's aspects of Nick's story that are really, really touching and admirable. And obviously, he's dealt with a lot from a mental health perspective. But he's also, he's behaved inappropriately in many occasions. He's obviously had the domestic violence case,
That's true.
which is, really like not not a good thing to have on your resume per se. And I just don't think this is his fight to fight. I think he's just picking up something that like he doesn't need to get this in the weeds on, and it makes you think like, are you having some sort of like dark moment? Like what's kind of going on with you mentally that is making you double down 10 times over on this issue? It just seems strange. Like it's not really your fight to pick. It's not like you were losing to Sinner and didn't win your Grand Slam because you lost to Sinner. Like it just like it doesn't seem to add up. And yeah, I think it takes away from the aspects of his story that are good, and his mental health issues and the podcast that he's been doing, the questions that he asks, the good job that he has done on commentary and his tennis IQ, and I genuinely have enjoyed listening to that. But yeah, I mean, I think it gets to a point when like a human being has like too many strikes against it. And I pretty much was always a Kyrgios fan,
Hmm.
but this is getting to a point now where, yeah, with the kind of domestic violence case and now this, it just I start to have a bit of a sour taste in my mouth about it, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think that's extremely hypocritical of him to be so hard on the center when he literally has pled guilty to domestic violence.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
But yeah, so up next we have a kind of segments portion of the episode. So Eric and I each bring in a news topic that we saw from the week, and then we talk about a bet of the week and a match of the week. So if you want to stick around, just give your thoughts maybe on what our news topics and bets are and stuff like that. That'd be great.
sounds good.
Alrighty, so you ready to hop in segments, Eric?
Let's do it. Hey guys, before we jump in, we have some exciting news. We recently partnered with TruePro. They're a great place to buy strings, grips, and tennis apparel. Use discount code Painting Lines, that's one word, for 20% off store wide. You can find the link in our bio.
Alrighty, what's new in tennis? What'd you see this week?
I saw a couple of things that I wanted to mention. The first was Medvedev smashing the net camera. So points for novelty because I've never seen anyone else smash the camera. So at least he was original there. You know, I feel like the racket was a little too basic for him. I personally think that this is worse than smashing your racket because in this case, you're defacing the tournament's property, and this may be a reach, but like possibly impacting the future like call of the match, like whether or not they may have needed that camera to play a replay at a certain angle or something. I just think it was pretty rude of him to just smash the camera. I'm gonna open it up to you guys and see what you think his fine should be because there's no doubt he will be fined for this. And I believe the max fine for racket abuse is 50,000. So if you guys think it's gonna USDs, if you think it's gonna be kind of around there or like what you guys think his fine should be.
I mean, it's got to be a step up from racket abuse, right? Because it's
Right.
it's like court abuse at that point. So I'd assume it's going to be near the max, if not they tack something else on in addition to it.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was honestly bizarre to watch, but that's Medvedev. I guess I don't know. Did he know that the camera was there? Like, was he trying to break that, or was it an accident? I mean, obviously he broke it, so he's got to take responsibility for that. I mean, I think to me a $50,000 fine seems pretty hefty and a pretty good portion of the first round winnings. So I'm not sure I would go like too much north of it. I also don't think he's like I'm not sure it's something anybody else is going to repeat. Like, you know, usually you want to like deter someone from doing that thing, just like, you know, don't swear at the umpire and don't break your racket. But I don't think we're going to see many people like walking up to the net and trying to smash their racket on the camera. I mean, it sounded like he was even surprised that he broke his racket. So,
Yeah, it broke right in half the
yeah,
frame.
just like a bizarre thing to do. Yeah, I would say max fine and call it a day, but maybe that's underdoing it. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And then he also had that weird speech at the press conference, like after, where he's like, oh, if this guy keeps playing the way he does, he'll have anything he wants, girls, money, casino. So this
So
goes back to your one word description of him just being a joker.
he is, and
Yeah.
like
I
I
love
don't
it.
think I love him. Like he just comes out with these things where I'm just like, no, nobody else would say this. Like it's just so classic Medvedev, and I mean, I think over the years he's shown he's a pretty good sport and is a good loser, and he's clearly quite intelligent. Always gives really like solid answers in press conferences, like thoughtful answers too. And I think he handles difficult questions well. So yeah, he just has these like lapses and moments that fans tend to laugh at, and if it was anyone else, we wouldn't laugh. But I don't know, something about him that's just like it's just too funny.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just him saying like he underestimated his opponent because he was like, I definitely didn't expect my opponent to play at the level that he did, and essentially saying like he'll be a super top level player if he can play like that consistently.
Yeah, I think he meant it as a compliment for
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah,
just in his own way.
definitely. And then the second thing I saw this week that I wanted to mention was So the Australian Open, they found a loophole because they don't have like all the rights to their broadcast. So they used Wii avatars to live stream matches on YouTube, which I thought was pretty creative. And then they also said that it kind of the added benefit of that was attracting a younger audience, kind of how like Nickelodeon does with NFL, where they'll put the slime on the games and stuff. But I don't know. I personally wouldn't watch a Wii Avatar live stream, but I thought it was, pretty cool to see at least the technology to be able to do that.
So it was like the Wii avatars were like over the players or something like that.
Essentially, yeah. So they had some AI tool that like it would be the match, but it's just fake, if
Almost
that
like a
makes
cartoon
sense.
version, like a
A
cartoon
cartoon,
version of
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But everything else was like fine. Like you could see the score, the rallies. The
That's
players looked kind of funny too. Like some of them just didn't really match up. Like
Do
Kyrgios
they
was
have to
one of
make
them.
like a me for each of these
Yeah.
players?
I don't know if they did it, but I think AI did it.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
definitely it's a really interesting move. I mean, I feel like with the Grand Slams, like generally coverage, obviously I can't speak for every country. Like maybe there genuinely are places where it's like super difficult to find a stream and follow along. So this is like a great replacement, or as you say, it's good for kids. I feel like with the slams, in places where it is covered. Like even if you don't want to pay for ESPN all the time, you can just pay for ESPN for the month of the slam and then call it a day, and it's not too pricey. Um, but I think it's important to see like tournaments trialing innovation and new things, and I think AO is one of the best tournaments in terms of their social media and digital strategy and all of the things that they're doing, creators that they're working with, personalities that they have involved. I mean, they seem to really like get everybody in and working hard and trying new stuff. So I think it's fun to see, and it obviously went pretty viral and got a lot of people talking. So again, that's good news that I think expands the tennis world.
Totally. All right, Aiden, what did you see this week?
Mine's more of just like a news topic from last week, which was Monfils winning Auckland. Obviously, major deal for him. It's his first title in a long time, and he's actually the oldest player to win an ATP title now. He took it from I think Federer in 2019. He was the oldest at that point. But an interesting thing about this one was it's actually 20 years since his first tour title, which is just crazy to think about. I mean, he's playing some guys that are like younger. They were born after he won his first title, and now he's winning. He's still winning. But it does kind of make me think about where tennis is, and if you think about older guys having more success now, uh, and I wonder whether that's an argument of whether the overall peak level in tennis is getting lower or higher, or how it's being impacted, because we saw guys like Nishikori made a final last week. Cilic won a title last year. Monfils contending for a title here, and they're kind of all past their prime. So I'm wondering whether this is a signal of like these old guys, are the old guys actually getting better, or is it like, okay, they weren't able to win as many titles in their prime because they were going against the big four, and now they're able to do it against guys that maybe aren't as good. So I'm just kind of wondering about that one.
Honestly, I think the latter. I really think like this is their time to actually finish out their career on a strong note.
Yeah, I
Makes
think
sense.
it's a good question. I think the level of tennis is just getting higher. I think if I was like to ask you guys a news question, I'd ask about the Tsitsipas loss and his comments in the press conference and sort of what he said about like, people are just getting better, and it's really hard to maintain top 10 status with just the way that these young guys are playing the game. I think, you know, tennis it depends on the draw, and he had a good draw and he had a good opportunity in Auckland, and he was able to capitalize. And I think Monfils is one of those players that he's like always had the weapons to be dangerous. And if he's in a right situation and his body's in a right way, and he's going to gobble up the opportunity to win. So I'd agree with Eric that I feel like maybe those guys didn't have as much success because of the level that they were playing against. And I think the level is getting higher, but these are young like products that are still maturing and developing, and the experience of someone like Monfils can certainly still get the better of them in the meantime.
100% makes sense. How about bet of the week, Eric? What'd you go for here?
This one pains me to say, but I'm going with Runa plus 105 against Berrettini. And you know how
Ooh.
much I love Berrettini. But Runa has a 3-1 head-to-head record. And the last two times they played, Runa won. They were both outdoor hard courts, and they're fairly recent too. So I think this is kind of a pure matchup play. I think Runa just has a better matchup. And I do think that Runa can handle that big Berrettini serve because in all four matches they played, he's broken them every single time. There hasn't been any tiebreakers. And I think the 5 set format actually favors Runa because I think as the match goes on, he'll be able to wear down Berrettini. So, at least this is one of those bets where if Runa wins, I'm happy because I win money. But if Berrettini wins, I'm also happy because I'm a fan. So,
Yeah, I mean with this, like you said, it's tough to know. Sometimes Berrettini isn't in always the perfect shape, but I do think he goes in. I always talk about time on court in the slams, and Runa did just have a tough 5 set match in his last round, so maybe that plays a role in this if it starts dragging on.
hmm Eliza, any comments?
I'm not a good betting expert, so I'll preface anything I say with that I'm not the one to ask. But I do think Runa knows how to play Berrettini, and to me, if you are a strong enough returner and a good enough mover, it's easy isn't the right word, but the strategy is obvious in terms of you want to exploit and rush the Berrettini backhand, and Runa has the weapons to really bother him with that. So yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see what the court time, as you're sort of saying, Aiden, could affect him, but I mean, he's young and should have that in the tank. But yeah, I could easily see this going like 4 sets, maybe not straight sets, but it's hard to know with Berrettini's level where where he really is. But I think to me the backhand is just such an obvious weakness that um, if Runa can move and get around it, he'll win the match.
Yeah, there's actually a prop bet that to go 4 sets, I think it's plus 160, or for Runa to win 3-1.
Okay.
So that's a little tempting. How about you, Aiden? Who are you taking this week?
I mean, I'm going with one that I saw that was kind of a moment in time bet where after I went back to check it later and the odds had shifted, but
Yeah.
when I checked, it was Musetti plus 100 over Shapovalov. And I just think it's crazy to see him as the betting underdog in this match just because Musetti has the head to head against Shapo. He has been playing better. He played great last year and he has the higher ranking. So I just feel like this is a perfect storm for betting on Musetti here.
Yeah, I don't really have any comments. I think this is easy money, unfortunately, because I am a Chapo fan.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't have any bets for you guys.
Yeah, no worries. And then a match of the week. What'd you go for, Eric?
I went with Monfils taking down GMP. So this was a generational matchup, multi-generational. Two Frenchmen, 5 set thriller with 3 tiebreaks, actually. There were a ton of exciting points, extended base run rallies, which I was pleasantly surprised because I didn't really think GMP had that. And then GMP, some 1E winners down the line. Like he has such a nice backhand too. It's nice that he can be versatile enough to serve and volley, but then also play from the baseline. And then I liked Monfils' strategy because I feel like he was just being a backboard. He didn't have to do too much. He didn't take too many risks. He just kind of kept the ball in play and sustained those long rallies. And he actually did a great job of holding serve. He didn't get broken once either. And then just to cap it off, I love how these old dogs keep the new guys in check. He did it versus Passivaretti last week in Auckland. And it was funny, they mentioned this on Nothing Major, but they said Monfils was old enough to be GMP's dad, which I think is hilarious.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It was definitely a great match. Exciting. Sometimes I feel like when you look at a guy like GMP, when you have such a great serve, it can almost take away from the match because you get so many easy points. But I think this was because of how athletic and Monfils is and how experienced he is, he made it into a great match.
Yeah, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, Aiden, but Eliza, Aiden has a phenomenal French accent. So instead
Oh
of calling
no,
him
no, no, no,
GMP,
no,
come
no,
on.
no, 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 no.
You
I'm not
got
doing
to.
it. Not
All
doing
right,
it.
fine,
Gotta do it
fine.
off camera for me.
Yeah, off cam. But you belly cog. All right.
um,
How about you? What was your match of the week?
I'm going with Draper defeating Kokkinakis in 5. Feel like it has to be a 5-set match for match of the week when it's slam season. And I think it was just a match of having all the perfect ingredients that just came out and delivered, where you have two young guys hungry for success. And while it is an early round, they're both willing to dig deep to battle for the win here. And we've seen Draper kind of struggle with tough conditions sometimes in the past. I know he's like thrown up a couple times on the court, but this match went over 4.5 hours and he was able to survive it and succeed. It was also interesting to see because Kokkinakis has a strong serve, but neither player was really too dominant on serve. And I think this was especially shown when Kokkinakis actually served for the match in the 4th set, but kind of crumbled a little bit in that moment. And Draper performed really well, was able to break twice and win that set 7-5 and then close it out in the 5th. So a little bit of a comeback aspect too, which is always kind of fun to see that momentum shift, but overall just an exciting match.
Definitely. I feel like Tiafoe took a play out of Draper's playbook this week and just boot and rally to win the match.
100%.
I mean, there's been a lot of really good 5-set matches. I mean, the Fonseca match wasn't 5 sets, but that was also a great match. Obviously, you just mentioned Tiafoe. But I'll throw in a women's match. I really enjoyed Peyton Stearns versus Emma Navarro. I thought that was a really high-level collegiate battle. Like, yeah, it was sort of backing into the win a little bit at the end. Sort of had the the ending wasn't it was just a collapse from Stearns, but the tennis and the level of the tennis and what they just in general, the Peyton Stearns forehand is super impressive to me. I mean, she's pretty much got the same technique as Sinner in terms of how she takes the racket back, and she just gets so much power. So I'm a big like early rounds WTA fan, and that was a big match that I really enjoyed watching.
Yeah. It was interesting. I remember last year, maybe it was at the US Open, but I think Sabalenka had like the fastest like average forehand speed or something like that at the US Open. So the women can generate a lot of power on those shots.
Yeah, and I know, it's a different volume when it comes to the spin and, what that looks like and how that plays. But yeah, I mean, the power from the women's side is there. And I think, I watch both men's and women's tennis a lot. And I enjoy them for the kind of like slightly different sports that they are. And especially at a Grand Slam when it's best of 5 versus best of 3. I mean, sort of like the stress after losing set 1. I mean, you've got to figure out the problem so much quicker in the women's game. There's just no room for sort of like playing yourself into form and sort of figuring out your opponent. So I think Emma Navarro really handled the challenge there well and just stuck with it and continued to kind of be involved in the match and managed to pull out the win. So yeah, it was a really fun battle, and yeah, I'm looking forward to some more of those matches.
Yeah, I'm a huge Emma Navarro fan since actually with Aiden, we saw the Navarro Goff match in Arthur Ashe during the US Open, and that was the most tense I've ever been in my life. Like that stadium was just you couldn't even find a seat. That's how packed it was, and like the energy was off the charts.
Oh, that's great. That's a good
Yeah.
one. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But hey, Eliza, thanks for coming on. Really enjoyed this conversation. Where can people find you on social media for those who don't already follow you?
Yes, I'm on Instagram. It's Eliza's World. Join me in my little world of talking about tennis and tennis fashion and having fun. And thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It's nice to meet you guys, and keep up the good work.
All right, and that's the show. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Painting Lines Podcast. Feel free to shoot us a DM or email us any questions or thoughts at paintinglinespodcast@gmail.com.